Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Sit Down with Malik Wright, presented by First Star Logistics, live from the First Star Logistics studio. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host. We've got Jules, we've got Evan McPhillips. I didn't say McPherson. And we've got a jam-packed show, a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff has happened too, you know? A lot of stuff has happened, whether it be from the NCAA tournament, the Reds baseball being back in action, trouble in paradise in Boston. So much stuff to get into. But before we do, if you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and join in on the discussion. Without further ado, we're going to kick this off with a hot topic that has sort of come up in the NFL as of recent. And it started with the one guy, I think his name is Emmanuel Acho. He put a tweet out where he says, Joe Burrow, okay, and Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson should all band together to sort of go against the powers that be in ownership in the NFL in light of Lamar Jackson not getting the guaranteed contract. He goes as far as to say that if, essentially if they come together and say, you know what, we won't play, unless you give us a guaranteed contract, that'll help Lamar Jackson's contract situation in the long run. And it'll also, I guess, give a big finger to the owners and let them know that they run the NFL, I guess, in some weird sense, right? And not the ownership. So I thought that was a weird dialogue to have that, essentially you're basically asking some of these marquee quarterbacks to ruin relationships that they have with their front office, essentially to help Lamar Jackson's contract situation when, they're not the same. Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and so many different people aren't in the same situation from a contract standpoint that a guy Lamar Jackson is. Joe Burrow is a guy that has taken his team to a Super Bowl and 2 AFC championships back to back. What does he have to gain by worsening relationships with the front office and talking about, hey, I'm going to sit out unless I get a guaranteed contract? I don't know. I felt that whole entire bit very interesting, and I started to see it was gaining some steam on the internet. So I figured it was a good talking point for us to talk about on the show. I want to get everybody's opinions on this. Does Lamar Jackson's, contract situation hurt other quarterbacks' contracts in the long run? Evan, let's start this one off with you.
Well, we know Emmanuel Acho had the famous outlandish take that people were going to be Olympic athletes might be smoking weed in their spare time and then impale each other with javelins because they were just too high to know what direction to throw in. So wouldn't surprise me if perhaps that Emmanuel Acho was hitting the pack a little bit before this take, because it's absolutely wild. I mean, just to say that Joe Burrow, like you said, because the Ravens and Lamar Jackson have a tenuous relationship over this contract, should poison his own relationship and his own future to help Lamar out? For what? Why should Justin Herbert do that? Why should these guys ruin the relationships that they have built the right way with these organizations, like you said, and throw it all away for putting a line in the sand? Like Kirk Cousins just a couple years ago. Why are we all forgetting that Kirk Cousins had the first fully guaranteed contract?
He was.
And all the contracts since then, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, all these people who have signed, this has not been a sticking point for anybody else. This has not been an issue with getting contracts done. So just to say, like, we know there's other reasons why that Lamar Jackson situation has not progressed. When you have, it's not just you have to sign him to a big contract and put all the guaranteed money in escrow. It's also the fact that you have to give up 2 first-round picks for that. And guess what's coming up? The NFL draft. Do you think the Colts, if they are serious about being in on Lamar, want to give up pick number 4?
No.
Why, if they were intending to pick for Lamar, why wouldn't they draft this year, use their high value pick, and then say, hey, we just added a bunch of good guys at early slots now that we expect next year will be at pick 20, 25 if we go and get Lamar. Why would they not wait until after the draft? So I don't think anybody wants to sacrifice the capital that they do have right now. I think you'd be more likely to see that market kind of shift a little bit after the draft happens. But it's important to, like you said, the context is so different. Like, I think, what is it? The first time you've ever had a quarterback come through and get the, not the franchise tag, the, what's the exclusive tag? Thank you. The non-exclusive tag. It's a weird situation. It's a unique situation. So to just say that all quarterbacks now should just put their feet down, like if that's a sticking point for you, then okay. But to just say that everyone should riot because Lamar Jackson hasn't gotten a contract when there's so much going on with it is just, it's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. It's a very Emmanuel Acho take.
Oh yeah. Jules?
I guess my question is, why should they have to help someone else that doesn't want to help themselves? Lamar's the issue here. I mean, not only Lamar, but I don't understand what they have to do and what it has to do with anyone else's contracts. And like everyone said, why should they have to poison their relationship with their front office and owners and everyone just because of Lamar Jackson? I mean, he's not the only person here. So,
right. Jules, you're getting a lot of love in the comment section too.
Ooh,
we got
God.
people saying, "I'm just here to see if Jules will marry me or sign my forehead."
Oh no, is this Jess? Jess, are you on your burner account?
We have another person saying she's mine, Jess. So you're getting a lot of love in the comment section.
Is it also? Is my mom out there? Hi, mom. My mom doesn't even know how to comment, so I doubt it.
But I do think situation's kind of interesting, and I've always found it a little bit weird to see how it was going, if you will, and for him to actually come out there and make that statement. I don't think, just to put it, bluntly, I don't think these quarterbacks have anything to gain by helping out a Lamar Jackson. And I'm not saying Lamar Jackson isn't worthy of being helped, but he chose not to have an agent. He chose for these negotiations to go a lot difficult than they probably should have, if you ask me. And then obviously you have injury playing a role into things of that nature. But I do think we're in an unprecedented time, right? You got Tua Tagovailoa. He's going to be up for a contract. Joe Burrow's going to be up for a contract. Justin Herbert's going to be up for a contract. Jalen Hurts going to be up for a contract. Lamar Jackson's up for a contract. All these quarterbacks, I don't want to say star because I don't think Tua is that, but all these quarterbacks are up for contracts at this point in time. And, I'm very curious to see how a lot of them make out, especially with the whole guaranteed contracts for quarterbacks come into play. A friend of mine brought up a conversation a little bit ago. He said, do you think that quarterbacks should have their own portion of the cap space where it does not affect the rest of the cap space? Because you figure a lot of these teams will sign a quarterback to a huge contract and not be able to pay other pieces on their team. So I think that's an interesting discussion to have. Do you think, because quarterback is a marquee position, quarterback is an anomaly compared to the rest of these positions in the league? Ev, you're the guy, right? You know your stuff here. I got to ask you this. Do you think quarterbacks should be paid in a separate, I guess, cap space thing compared to other quarterbacks? I mean, other positions on the team? Or do you think the cap space quarterback should still be included in the cap space like any other team?
I think if you did that, there's two things that kind of come to mind immediately, just kind of based on that hypothetical. And the first is the value of the 5th-year option and kind of just being a first-round pick, right? Yeah. The advantage to getting these guys on a 5-year deal is having them on a cost-controlled deal for that amount of time. Whereas if you can pay quarterbacks separate of the cap, that advantage is significantly diminished. We've seen a lot of teams in recent years capitalize on that rookie contract to build a team around their quarterback, right? And you don't need that anymore if you make the quarterback an exception, right? The second thing that I would think would happen is eventually the market's going to catch up, where if you suddenly have an abundance of cap space because you're not paying quarterbacks anymore, then suddenly agents can go, well, shoot, you've got 25% of your cap freed up now. I want an extra $3 million for my guy at safety, and I want an extra $5 million at defensive end. And suddenly you see the other contract values go up to compensate because they're not coming for a set dollar amount. They're coming for a specific piece of the pie, however big, right? 25% of the cap. So if they have that number freed up, an agent may go, hey, defensive ends at top dollar make, 15% of the cap right now. And suddenly you just got rid of quarterbacks. I want to make 20, So I think the market would eventually catch up to that because I think agents are smart enough to know that you have that available money to play with in that cap space now. So I think it would shift the landscape for a little bit, but many times, like you see people start to, over the years, start to figure out how to kind of play the game a little bit and dance around these advantages and disadvantages to try and make the most of what they can build on their roster.
I agree. I just thought that was a very interesting topic.
It's an interesting hypothetical,
It seems like these quarterbacks getting paid. I remember at one point in time, we were looking at $100 million for a quarterback as a lot of money right now.
The Derek Carr and Matt Stafford extensions. You remember those when they were the highest paid quarterbacks for like a day?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then that changed. Moving on, let's keep the conversation rolling. All draft process, we've heard about 2 quarterbacks. Okay. We've heard about Bryce Young from the University of Alabama, CJ Stroud from the University of the Ohio State. And I feel like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are the forgotten sons. I feel like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are the people that we don't talk about enough for whatever reason. And it seems like the guy Will Levis has the biggest target on his back, where everybody in the media seems to hate this guy. I mean, he's getting ridiculed every step of the way. And for me, there are things that Will Levis has to work out in his game, whether it be from his pocket presence or things of that nature, but the hate that this guy is getting. I mean, the guy posted a picture of his body transformation that he made, and he was being called unaware. He wasn't aware. He wasn't self-aware of himself and things of that nature. And, how teams view him, and, he's coming off a certain way in interviews and XYZ, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. I don't want to make this so personal here, but I do want to ask the question. I do want to pose the question. Since we aren't talking about Anthony Richardson and Will Levis a lot, are Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, are they franchise quarterbacks? Are they potential franchise quarterbacks? Do they have the upside, or do they have the favorite word that I hate to use, the intangibles, to be franchise quarterbacks in the National Football League? Evan.
I think they have the tangibles, right? Mm-hmm. They have the physical tools that you're looking for in a quarterback. Obviously, we want to start with Will Levis. Dude's got a howitzer for an arm, is really good under pressure. I mean, that offensive line was terrible for him last year. The supporting cast was not great, and he was really doing as much as he could. There's talk about how much the foot injury was affecting him, which, if you've got turf toe, I don't know how many people have had that, planting full force and driving a lot of your body weight into that over and over again. That hurts. So credit to him for playing through that. Like we said, he's got the size you want. He's got the arm talent to put it intermediate, deep, across opposite hashes, everything you want to see. The real problem is the accuracy, right? He just consistently is missing throws. The base is a little inconsistent at times. And these are things that you can clean up with good coaching, right? If you land with a guy like a Frank Reich, which I don't think the Panthers are going to go that way, but if you end up with the Colts, you've got a good offensive coordinator or head coach there now who worked with the Eagles, worked to develop that system around Jalen Hurts. So you're talking about someone who can build around a quarterback. It'd be a good spot for him. But at the same time, you're talking about a guy who's had a little bit of playing experience now, looked good in a Ram system style offense the previous year to last year. I definitely think he's you could do a lot worse as a quarterback prospect. But again, it's
Will Levis, you're saying?
Yes. I'm saying the big drawback, he has all the physical tools, and the big problem with him is processing. Sometimes he's just a beat behind on some of the throws, doesn't have the anticipation that you need on some of the intermediate throws when you're trying to win in the NFL, where you have to win in that area and throw before people necessarily come open. And then the inconsistency with accuracy, and it's really inconsistent. So fortunately, those are things that you might, with film study, with time, and with coaching, can clean up, and he can help maximize himself. But ultimately, there's a reason that he's kind of fourth on this pecking order.
You see, this is a quarterback-driven league, right? And Jules, I really want to hear your take on this whole thing. But I got to say this. I think Will Levis is going to get drafted by the Colts. I've said that a while ago. I think he's the 4th overall pick. I do. And I think people are going to be shocked when he is drafted by the Colts. I have my reasons for thinking that. But I think that people forget that it is a quarterback-driven league. And the quarterback position is the most important position in the National Football League, right? So if a team can go out there and get their guy, or they see that this guy may have the intangibles or have something potentially where he could be something, right? Let's remember Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick Mahomes, he fell in the draft because he was missing certain factors in his game right? It's almost like how Anthony Richardson is being talked about right now. Anthony Richardson, he's raw. He has a lot of talent. He has a great arm. He has a huge arm, right? He can do all these things. But the question is, can this guy potentially be a franchise quarterback? Those are the questions right now. And so you know what? It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this thing, this thing shakes out. Forgive us right now for being a little flustered. There is a
goose fight.
There
I
is
mean,
a
there is
gee-
a
there is a
literal fight
goose
between
outside
geese
of
going
the
on right
studio.
outside the window.
There is currently a goose outside the studio banging his head on the studio trying to get in. I kid you not. I kid you not.
Wait,
there is a goose right now trying to get in, and he ran full fledged at the studio glass and slammed his head against the window. I mean, I've never seen anything like this before.
You're real famous, man. The people just want to get to you.
I mean,
Malik.
listen, I know you guys want to be here for the sit down show, but relax over there. It's gonna be all right.
I can't.
And
So
Jules, I want to hear your thoughts on this whole situation. You guys got to say this is comical right now. This is comical.
I'll post it to Twitter. It's crazy.
I've lost all train of thought. I hate geese. So like I'm oddly terrified, but this is a lot of comedy just live right in front of my face. Anyways, back to Will Levis. I think with him, there's a lot of recency bias because his senior year wasn't that great. Like you mentioned, he was playing hurt. And I don't know if anyone mentioned this, but he also didn't have the best O-line. They had a new OC that he didn't mesh with well and a very young receiving core as well. And they weren't as experienced. A lot of his numbers are very similar to Josh Allen, more specifically in his junior year. We're just going to throw senior year film away. Doesn't matter. Doesn't count. You know why? Because I said so. And again, he was hurt. It's fine. It's whatever. But he has a great arm. Obviously, accuracy is an issue. But I think if he's given, which is concerning, if he has the perfect situation, the perfect team willing to work with him, the geese are still going at it.
It's like Night of the Living
build
Dead
around
out there.
him.
Dear God.
Big Will Levis fan. I don't know how else to add. I just can't. What
This
are
is
they
the
really
stuff-
trying to get
this
in?
is the
I
stuff
think,
on the
I think
show.
It's an owl. I think it's the owl, the little owl thing.
It's the owl
That's
thing.
probably. Let me go check.
This
This
is
thing
hilarious.
this is hilarious. This is something I've never
I can't even
seen this before.
focus.
Hey, you better be careful, man.
Can I check the red score?
This
I
thing
am.
is crazy. But finish.
I mean, that's really what I had to say. Really, that we're just gonna ignore his senior year. I think he's good. I think he's good. I mean, obviously.
You want to offer your thoughts on Anthony Richardson since we haven't really gotten to talk about him too much?
I
just
think
yet?
Anthony
We have
Richardson is. I think if he
No
was
time.
able to put it all together, he would be the first quarterback taken off the board in this draft class.
Mhm.
He has the size, he has the arm strength, he has everything that you would want
Right.
in a quote unquote franchise quarterback. Right? He has the intangibles, he has the upside, he has, all the stuff that you're looking for. Mason hits us with the score, by the way, for the Reds. 3-3. Reds tied it
Oh,
up.
thank
So,
you. Wait, did Kevin Newman hit?
it's one of those things where when you look at it, right? I think Anthony Richardson, if he was able to put it all together, he would be a guy that we could see being drafted a lot early in projection. I still think he goes top 10, honestly.
Mhm.
I don't see him falling out of that, but I just think that this is one of those situations where it's unfortunate, right? Because I feel like if he was able to put it all together, this quarterback class is prime for the taking. I feel like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, they're both lacking just something, you know what I mean? And teams are like, oh, well, we got to draft the guy. We got to draft the quarterback because it is a quarterback.
They're very solid prospects
They're
you feel good
solid-
about,
yes.
but it's not the
Yeah.
upside
You don't
throw
love
that you
it.
Exactly.
I'll be real. If you are looking for a franchise quarterback, this is the draft class where you're like, you're scratching your head. You're like, all right, maybe one of these guys could be something, but like,
You feel good
it
about
is
the
what it
floor
is.
of the first two guys that you're going to get a capable quarterback, but really it's the chance that Will Levis or Anthony Richardson take that step. And kind of to talk a little bit about what you said with, inexperience. And you said earlier that quarterbacks are sometimes talked about as raw, right? So like that, what does that mean? Inexperienced, right? They have room to grow because of that lack of experience. And sometimes that's overused. You'll hear it about, juniors and seniors that are coming out and have at least, 2 or 3 years starting. When you look at Anthony Richardson, he had 65 total passing attempts in his first 2 years. That's what we mean when we say he's raw. He's still just 20 years old. That's what we mean when we say he's raw. There is a lot of inexperience there and room to grow in just a mechanic standpoint, tightening up his throwing angles, just getting a little more experience, like we said, at the nuanced part of the quarterback position. And you see when he's targeting deep, when he's targeting the intermediate areas where you often have to win in the NFL. This past year, he had an 85.8 grade on the middle of the field when passing there, the 10 to 19 yard range, 93.1 grade when targeting deep. The drawback with him is when you look at his short passing, 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in the 0 to 10 yard range. That can't happen. You can't have a 33.8 PFF grade on the easy throws, right? So that's something that he's got to be able to reel in, be a little more consistent about. And that's the worry. And that's kind of part of what the concern is for him, is he's missing the layups, but hitting the easy ones or the harder ones. So you've seen the high end talent, but you haven't seen the consistency in the easy areas to win. And just kind of to make another point about how he developed himself in his first full year starting, weeks 1 to 6, Anthony Richardson had 5 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 9 turnover-worthy plays. The next 6 weeks, he threw 6 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions, 3 turnover-worthy plays. So to see him take that big growth, that big step that we often sometimes see quarterbacks like CJ Stroud took between game 1 and the final game against Georgia, then that's what you're talking about. You want to see that growth. And you saw signs of that growth with Richardson, which I think is why, with his tools, with his arm talent and physical ability, you're right. He's the home run swing that you'd be willing to take in the top 10 this draft.
You know, I'm very curious to see where he does wind up going. I thought that the Buccaneers would have interest in the guy like Anthony Richardson. I'm sorry, I'm still watching this goose trying to get in. Right now, he's got my full undivided attention.
I
But
can't wait to watch that later.
it's a fun time. I tell you right now, he was pretty angry. It seems like he was mad. He wasn't, the main guest on the show, if you will. But it's one of those things.
That's next week.
That's next week. We'll have you.
Yeah,
We'll have you on the show then.
Nah.
Got the days mixed up.
Yeah, me too. I didn't even know it was April, honestly.
He saw Evan, man. He said, "Hey, what's up, man?" But anyway, want to keep the conversation rolling to a very, very I guess controversial topic right now on Twitter. A lot of people are talking about Angel Reese right now. And they have their thoughts, they have their opinions. People are pissed. But before we jump into it, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and do us a huge favor, turn on post notifications. We have shows almost each and every single day this week. We obviously have the Sit Down with Malik Wright every single Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We have the Right Bet tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesday, we have State of the Jungle at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, show for Bengals fans. And this Thursday, we have a special UFC show that we're pretty excited about. If you can't tell, we even got the blinkage over there, the new belt over here on the show. So we're pretty pumped about that. So if you haven't done so already, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications. But Angel Reese is a sophomore, right, from LSU. And people seem to be very pissed at her. And I think people are pissed at her because they say she was being immature. They say she was being classless. They say that she what else did they say? I mean, they were saying a lot of stuff about her. And then Caitlin Clark obviously said what she said, the whole Johnson, you can't see me. Let me just start off by saying this. I'm not going to say it first. I'm going to let Jules go first because I know Jules has a lot she wants to get off of her chest.
Yeah.
Before you go, Jules, let me play the video real quick so we can so the people can see.
I completely forgot we had a video.
You're good.
We do have
there we
a
go.
video.
We have a
And Angel Reese knows a ring is coming.
Okay.
Jules.
So, my question is, why is Caitlin Clark allowed to do this to Louisville? Why is she allowed to do the disrespect towards South Carolina, where there's a girl at the 3-point line and she just went and didn't guard her? I love that stuff. I thought that was awesome, and everyone was praising her then. But then when Angel Reese does it back, everyone has an issue. Now, I have thoughts on that. And I think there's a lot of double standards, and it's not just one category, but maybe two. But I think we can put that together. I'm not trying to get yelled at. But I think if you dish it, you better be able to take it too. And the thing is Caitlin did. She didn't care. She didn't say anything back. So if Caitlin Clark doesn't have an issue with it, which she doesn't, then why does everyone else? She's a grown woman. If she had an issue, she can defend herself. She doesn't need a bunch of older white people defending her. I think she's fine. In fact, the only thing out of all of this that bothered me is when during the ceremony, I don't recall who it was. It wasn't Reese, but it was somebody else. So I think Reese said something else about Caitlyn disrespecting, and I think she was referring to South Carolina. I'm not really sure. Maybe she's friends with this South Carolina girl or something. I know they play each other a lot, obviously, but I don't really get what that has to do with her LSU. I don't get what Caitlyn disrespecting them had to do with that. Caitlyn disrespects everyone evenly. I love her. I'm the biggest, well, not the biggest, but I'm one of the biggest Caitlyn Clark fans. So for me to say this, it's not coming from bias, obviously. Like, I'm defending Angel Reese. I don't understand. I think it's more fun. It brought more viewers. It brought the conversation up. That's all people are talking about. And I love to see it. And I would love to see the numbers of that championship too, like viewership, because I know they broke a lot of records for just
it was the biggest, the most watched women's college basketball game of all time.
That's what I figured, because the Iowa South Carolina game had 5.5 million, which is the most viewed non-championship game in women's basketball. And I think who else you played as well, Virginia Tech, that was 3.4, which is one of the most viewed. So it's bringing it into the light, which I like. Obviously not in this way, but again, MJ, Larry Bird, they had the same thing going on. Were people like this with them too? Is it just because they're women? Like, or do we always have to be pretty and nice all the time? Nah.
That brings me to my next point. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
It makes me mad.
I'm letting you guys ride
I love
this one.
stuff. I love,
but I'm
pettiness.
gonna say this right now. This seems to be a direct shot at women, to be quite honest with you. Get very real right now on this show, because the fact of the matter is, we praise men, right? We praise men that have rivalries. We praise Luka Doncic for his crap talk that he talks to the Suns, and Devin Booker's crap talks that he gives to the Mavericks, where Luka's saying everybody's acting tough when they're up. We praise Pat Beverly for saying LeBron's too small. We praise Pat Beverly for saying the Lakers stink and they're trash, and walking around the arena holding on to his nose and different things of that nature, right? That's what sells, though. That's what sells.
Mm-hmm.
That's what sells.
Ooh,
you know, the way I see it is, to me, that made people want to tune in more, right? Just because they're females doesn't mean that they aren't competitive, doesn't mean that they aren't able to have a certain edge to them. It reminds me almost when Ronda Rousey broke onto the screen and she used to talk junk to women and different things of nature and tell them, I'm going to go out, I'm going to submit you. And she was considered the baddest woman on the planet, right? And she put asses into seats because of the way she carried herself. I feel if this were men, this wouldn't really be a conversation happening, because we praise Kobe Bryant.
Exactly.
We praise Kobe Bryant.
It's mama mentality until it's women.
Right? We praised Michael Jordan. Right? We praised these guys for we said they were alpha males. We said that, you know, that they had a competitive edge to them. But when it comes to women, oh, it's classless. It's this, it's that. Listen, this ain't the early 1900s anymore. Like, the simple fact of the matter is, they're allowed to have swagger about them. They're allowed to be boastful and be excited. Caitlyn Clark gave it. Angel Reese gave it back. Was it a little bit too far? Who cares? Who cares? In that moment, she said, ring me. She said, ring me. She believed in that moment they deserved that opportunity. They deserved to be braggadocious. They deserved to be excited about what they had achieved. Because Caitlyn Clark, by all means, is a phenomenal basketball player who was dominating. So they were excited about it. So no, I'm not going to make this about a race thing, but what I am going to say is, I'm going to say that we have to treat women with the same amount of respect that we give the men. Because the fact of the matter is, the way I see it is, I just saw two competitors going at it. I saw two competitors, you know, chomping at the bit, essentially. I didn't take anything from that when Caitlyn did it or when Angel did it. I didn't take anything more than what it had to be. You see people on social media riled up, pissed off, the whole 9 yards, and they felt some type of way about the way Angel Reese carried herself. Angel Reese is also a sophomore who's never experienced a national championship in her life,
No.
especially on this scale. Let them have this moment. Let Caitlin Clark have her moment. I just think too much was being made of it. It almost reminds me of when Sha'Carri Richards. I mean, you guys remember that?
Yeah, I
Sha'Carri
remember
Richards. She wasn't dressed like the traditional track, athlete star, so to speak. And she was ridiculed and judged and, talked about up and down the aisle from Ohio to New Jersey. And the way I saw it was she was different. She was different. And I agree with you, Eric. I agree, my man. It makes me think a lot of people haven't played, sports before.
Yeah, just tell us you haven't played sports without telling us you haven't played sports. It's always been a thing that like we aren't allowed to have some type of attitude or edge when we're playing sports. I played sports, and if I did anything that was even a little bit, and I'll admit sometimes I had a little bit of anger issues, but like I would see the same thing done by guys, NBA players, what are basketball players, and I'm like, no one ever has an issue with it. There's no issue with rivalry there. I love it. And like you said, it brings more people to watch. Everyone's thing about women's basketball, oh, it's boring. Like, this isn't real basketball. And then when that happens, it's something entertaining. It's
like
too
they're not
much.
allowed to have any
You can't
bravado.
win. We can't win no matter what we do.
It almost reminds me of, again, I keep saying reminds me because these things come up so often. I remember it was like 2 years ago. It was like a younger school kid with maybe high school. He hit a home run in a baseball game. Ran around the bases, whatever the case may be. He gets to the last base. He starts hitting the gritty. People were pissed. People were livid about it. Oh, classless, doesn't belong in our sport. And I'm like, yeah, maybe it does, because that sport's dying. That sport, a lot of people don't like to sit down and watch that sport on television. Maybe if it was a little bit more excitement, I would be, more inclined to watch baseball.
Real baseball bat flip energy.
Oh,
Hey,
that
I'm just saying, maybe if you allowed, maybe if you didn't keep these old traditional standards, maybe people would be like, you know what? Shoot, baseball's entertaining. I want to watch baseball more often, right? Maybe if these guys are allowed to have a little bit of a personality, which every single time a baseball fight breaks out, no, we're not saying a fight should be, but people glue their eyes to it. People go look at the clip and stuff like that because what excitement is there? These guys hit a home run. They're not allowed to celebrate without being ridiculed. And then, so I don't know. It's just, for me, it's the old traditional standard of how you should carry yourself. Even when NFL players first started running the ball into the end zone and they start doing their celebrations. Oh, remember for a while, the NFL said you couldn't taunt, you couldn't celebrate, you couldn't do anything.
It's soft.
Come on now. So like, to me, that we gotta.
I mean, it adds something to the sport, right? It adds that. Think about how many people started tuning in to just like your average golf tournament when Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka were both going at each other all the time. The interviews were getting crazy views. Their rounds of golf were getting crazy views, and people don't usually just tune into Thursday afternoon golf.
No,
who aren't diehard golf people, but there's people on Twitter just sharing clips like crazy. It's great for the exposure to the sport. It's great for obviously you don't want like people doing the Allen Iverson, like step over Ty Lue and staring at him on top of him. Like there's obviously a line, but I mean, if you've got people just jawing back and forth, I mean, shoot, that's how we all grew up playing basketball. That's how we all grew up playing football. That's how we grew up playing in whatever sport you want to insert there, because we're all out there just being competitive, right? You're all doing this, training so hard to get to that moment. When you succeed, it validates everything that you're worth in that moment. You should be allowed to celebrate that, man. Like, I mean, it takes me back to the Bears, who had the like practice squad player when they were playing the Steelers, who got that sack, did a celebration to nobody, and then the refs called him and said, oh yeah, that's a penalty. Now the Steelers get a first down. It was like, you just ruined one of the greatest moments of this guy's career, the validating, defining moment that he had made it and he had earned his way to the roster to be an impactful player in the NFL. And it was mired because NFL referees decided, that was too much. You were looking kind of toward the direction of the Steelers bench. So we don't, that's nonsense. Right. So I definitely think it adds something to the sport. And I think you shouldn't demonize it. You should encourage that spirit of competition.
Exactly. It makes it fun.
I agree. And there's no such thing as negative publicity, because I just want to say I saw a tweet that I believe Angel Reese in the past few days has gained 500,000 followers on social media and stuff. I'm sure Caitlin has too, but it's just and I love that she's on Twitter doubling down. I love it. She immediately posted the picture. That's
that means more money for all the girls too, because then they can get more NIL deals.
Exactly.
If they grow that much, that is a way to pump more money into women's sports, is getting that exposure, getting these new viewers, these new eyes, this new money that you can get, that is a market that you haven't tapped into, that people who have closed minds only get exposure to through TikTok and Twitter when they're scrolling and they go, wow, that's actually pretty cool. And then they start reading about this beef and Caitlin Clark and they go, wow, okay, she's got some swagger. Okay, now I want to watch. And now you've got people tuning into women's basketball who never would have given it a second thought.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And I think that we can probably look at Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark as needle movers. They could be people that
100%.
Really set the standard, going forward and let women know it's okay to show passion. It's okay to be energetic. It's okay to, have a certain cockiness and confidence about you without being ridiculed. It's not classless. It's none of that. It's the game, right? It's the game. It's about being competitive. And again, hats off to both of those women. Hats off to them for, a fantastic, championship. It was awesome. And congrats to LSU's women's team for winning the school's first ever basketball national championship, right? So want to keep the conversation rolling. We're going to switch it over to Boston. All right. Those of you know, I'm a huge Boston Celtics fan, but it's conversations that need to be had in Boston probably this offseason. And they're centered around Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, just so you guys know, one of the star players for the Boston Celtics, plays a little bit of shooting guard for them, small forward, things of that nature for them. But his name was tossed around in trade rumors for, potential Kevin Durant landing for the Boston Celtics this past summer. And the Celtics were coming off of a championship appearance. They lost to the Golden State Warriors, but his name was tossed around in trades. And it just seems like things have been just a tad bit off this season. He seems like he's non-committal to the team moving forward. So the question of the day is Jaylen Brown done with the Boston Celtics? Daniel, roll the clip.
In the light of your recent comments about your future here, did that mean a little more?
I just come out every day and just do my job. That's all I'm focused on.
So yeah, Jaylen Brown seems very non-committal. He pretty much said, I'm focused on right now, essentially, not really focused on, the long-term future here. Now, maybe that I could be reading too much into it, but to me, I said from the get-go, from the jump, when they threw his name in trade bait, I said, this is going to ruin everything that Boston had. And it sucks because a couple of years ago, they were doing an interview and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum said, why wouldn't you want to have two of the hottest, NBA young stars who aren't even 25 now yet?
3-and-D wing players who are a premium, who are a coveted asset in the NBA.
You know what sucks? All they're missing, in my opinion, and people ridicule me, Celtics fans ridicule me for saying this, but I don't care. The only thing that they're missing is they're missing a true point guard. I'm talking about a guy that could really be dominant and run this offense efficiently. Marcus Smart has done a fine job. What's asked of him, that's not his natural position. It's not typically what he does. He's usually a lockdown defender who can hit threes. That's what he is. But if they were able to go out there and grab a guy that can truly run this offense, but can also provide a spark offensively, it would be fantastic for them, right? It would be fantastic.
If they had a Maxey or like a Tyrese Halliburton or
if
something.
They had a Tyrese Halliburton, Maxey,
be a distributor.
Bro, if they had James Harden, oh my God. If they had a guy that could efficiently, dish the ball out and stuff like that, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum don't have to do so much ball handling and trying to create, their own offense, essentially, this team would be ridiculous. But I think that's all fallen by the wayside now. You throw a guy's name in trade rumors. That's like me going out there and me saying, you know what? I'm looking for a new co-host for the Sit Down with Malik Wright. And Evan has no idea about it. And it's like, you know what? Never mind. That didn't happen. Let's keep running every single show like we've been running. Evan, how would you feel?
I'd probably feel a lot like Jaylen Brown.
Right. To me, it's a lot of disrespect going towards Jaylen Brown's way. And I'm pissed off for him because it seems like, listen, all my sports teams, right? Whether it be the Alabama Crimson Tide, right? That's a little bit more roll tide, a little bit more difficult to say because it's college football. So it's not really a lot of loyalty there. Just loyal. A player commits to a team, he plays there. The Bengals have been very, very loyal, sometimes to a fault, to their own, right? The Boston Celtics, they've now gotten this bad rap of not doing their own right. You know what I mean?
Isaiah Thomas.
Isaiah Thomas was done.
I remember
filthy.
Isaiah Thomas. That was so mean. I don't even like Isaiah, but they did him wrong.
Right.
He was so upset about
Remember,
that.
they did Al Horford wrong.
Mhm.
They traded Al Horford.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, when is that narrative going to shift? Like how, like, I don't think we're thinking about how big of an impact that could have on future free agents wanting to come to Boston, because Boston's front office has shown there's no loyalty there. There's no loyalty there. You were willing to get rid of everything for Kevin Durant. And I get it. KD is KD. KD's a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
But Boston's front office is screwing up their future. There was no reason to throw Jaylen Brown's name in that trade. There was no reason. If you were truly committed to the players that you had here, mind you, it's almost like you were in the finals last year.
What question do you have about Jaylen Brown right now? What more does he have to prove to you to be worthy of sticking with the team, with what you have and what you've seen as his growth as a player? The guy's averaging almost 30 points a game this year.
His defensive prowess. Ask yourself.
He's shooting almost 40% from the 3-point
You
line.
would have to give up more than just Jaylen Brown to acquire Kevin Durant. So are you willing to screw up your depth? That's the exact same reason I'm looking at a team like the Phoenix Suns, and I'm saying Phoenix isn't going to go to the finals this year because their depth is screwed now on their team. When they run into a team with good depth, they're going to struggle. So you're willing to risk your future for Kevin Durant. I get it. Kevin Durant is a great player, but you have two young players that can grow together, that can win multiple championships. And what you say is, you know what? Yeah, I know we could do that. I know that looks good, but we want Kevin Durant. And you want Kevin Durant, you want Jason Tatum, and what? And you're going to give up you're going to give up your bench assets?
You're going to do what the Jets did for Aaron Rodgers, where you start shipping out good players and get rid of them, and you don't end up in a net positive situation for where you come.
Right.
Can I add a quote from Jaylen Brown just in his own words real quick?
Sure.
So this is from a March 21st interview with The Ringer where he was asked directly, what do you feel about signing an extension with the Celtics? And his response was, I don't know. As long as I'm needed, it's not up to me, Brown said. We'll see how they feel about me over time and how I feel about them over time. Hopefully, whatever it is, it makes sense. But I'll stay where I'm wanted. I will stay where I'm needed and treated correctly. I just pause, enjoy the time that you have now. And if it's your whole career, it's your whole career. And then he goes on to talk about how Jordan ended up playing for the Wizards and how players don't always stay with their original team. So I think that says a lot about where his head's at right now and how he feels disrespected. That sucks.
Boston waited for this.
Mm-hmm.
He's a young player.
He's developed exactly as
exactly. You guys were just in the finals last year, and now you're saying, nah, not good enough. That's messed up. This scenario, this whole situation is messed up. This is a guy that when Jason Tatum wasn't providing that spark, he showed up and he showed out. They have worked out well together. Mm-hmm. Did they get it done? No. Does every team get it done? No. I just think that this narrative that Kevin Durant is instantly going to go to a team and instantly make them a finals, put them into the finals is dead thinking. Kevin Durant went to the Golden State to make it to a championship, and he won a championship. He won what, 2? But he was on Brooklyn, and everybody said, you know what? KD is going to do great in Brooklyn. KD is going to finally bring a championship to the Nets. None of that happened. None of that happened. You had James Harden there. Didn't happen. You had Kyrie Irving there. Didn't happen. You had KD there. Didn't happen. So what makes you think, oh, you know what? Sacrificing our bench, trading away one of our better players, one of our best players in Jaylen Brown, and KD's going to get us over the hump. I just think that's a dead way of thinking. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm seeing this whole situation wrong. But I just think that the way the Boston Celtics have treated Jaylen Brown, it's despicable, if you ask me.
Yeah, and it's not their first time either.
Right.
Treating their own with disrespect. It's ridiculous.
Right. So it creates a standard. You have to ask yourself, even if you're Jason Tatum, you got to think, yo, if they do that to my brother, because if you got to realize Jaylen Brown's probably looking at it like, damn, was JT in on it? Because JT trains with Kevin Durant. Did he know about this? How does JT feel about me? Does he have my back? Is that really my brother? Can the Celtics? Yeah, I think that's a great question, Michael. Can the Celtics repair the situation with Jaylen Brown? I don't know if they can. Listen, trust takes years to build and seconds to break.
Look at the Ravens.
Trust.
What are you talking about, Jules? What you know about that?
Nothing.
No, but seriously, trust takes years to build and seconds to break. In a split second, in one offseason, in one phone call, the Celtics potentially ruined what they had. There's no secret as to why the Celtics have been a tad bit off. Why they don't seem like their old ways. Now, you could also say they don't have their coach, Udoka.
Yeah.
Right? You could say that. Because I'm not a fan of Joe Mazzulla personally. But I'm inclined to believe there's more to it. Your star player gets his name thrown around the rumors. You got a new coach in there. Jason Tatum still thinks he's him. He's not. Just for the record, he's not. He's a very good player. I remember at one point he was being compared to Luka, and I used to say, "What are you?" No. So I don't know. Danny, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. You're a Boston Celtics fan.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
Yeah, I
reading
know.
to the situation wrong.
No,
Great
you're
compliment
right.
here.
So my biggest question, this is also for you guys too, is if you're the Celtics, once again, I was like, what is their angle at this? For me, the thing I can't get across is you want Kevin Durant, or they wanted Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum, who both play the same exact position, who do arguably the same exact thing, need the ball in their hands. What does that say? Like, that shows that you have no confidence in your team. So I don't know. It's just really confusing as to why, they even wanted to do that, because it doesn't make sense. Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum wouldn't work. And it's just annoying because this team, they have it all there. And arguably the biggest competition in the East is the Bucks, and they proved that they can beat them last year. So the question, can it be repaired? The only way I see this being repaired is if they win a championship this year. But I don't know if they will even make it out the East with the way they're looking. I think the Bucks look way better than them. So I think the situation's too far gone, and disrespect in sports is very, like, players will take stuff personal, especially if they believe that they're a top tier player like Jaylen Brown believes he is.
The only way that this situation gets fixed and they have a reunion is Jaylen Brown makes an all-NBA team this offseason, which makes him eligible for the Supermax extension, and the Celtics do not waste any time and put it in front of him. Money talks, all right? So that's the only way that you repair this relationship and that you make him feel respected. And like he said, I want to be somewhere I'm needed. I want to be somewhere that I am treated well, properly. That Supermax ready to go on day one would solve a lot of problems, I think.
Exactly, because now they have to back up their words, right, with action. And no action is bigger than saying, JB, we view you as a top whatever player. Here's a boatload of money. Apologize for our stupid mistake. We flirted with the idea of bringing Kevin Durant in, right? But we now realize that was wrong. That was an error. We shouldn't have done that. We should have continued just to trust the process, believe what we have. It's about being very, very real and being very, very transparent. And that's something that the Boston Celtics owe to him. Let's just call it what it is. They owe it to him. Somebody said another question. Do y'all think if OKC had kept Durant, Westbrook, and Harden together, personality aside, would they have a championship by now? That is a good question.
Do they?
I think Russ and KD would have a championship. I do.
Yeah.
They were close.
The problem is that's right when the Warriors started to kind of peak. So would they be battling with the Warriors, and
They were so close to beating them. They were a game from beating them, weren't they?
Yeah, weren't they up 3-1
They were up.
though?
They were up.
They were up
Against the-
3-1 and
yeah,
lost.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. That's
Well,
why
I don't
everybody
know-
was.
I don't know if
That's why
Harden was
everybody.
there.
That's why
Yeah,
Harden was not
someone
there.
wasn't- Yeah, I was
No,
gonna say, someone wasn't there.
that's why I said Russ and
Yeah.
Russ and KD would have won.
And they were even close to beating the LeBron in the finals. They're not close, but they were in the finals.
Yeah.
Like,
I think they were so close, and I
4-1
think
Heat. Let's go.
I just think that
got
was a
beat on that one.
situation. That's why KD got ridiculed so much. It was so close to finally breaking through, and he basically took the coward's way out. To be
Yeah, he
honest with
did.
you, and he said, "You know what? I can't beat him. Join him." And bro, you were so
That still makes me so mad as a Cavs fan.
really
They had to
well.
go
Yeah, I
back
mean,
on that conversation. but-
if we're being honest with you, I see a lot of people put those tweets out there about Steph Curry. Let's be real with you. Steph Curry and the Warriors, LeBron and them had sort of figured them out. And they had to go out there and make a move and get a guy like Kevin Durant to take them over the top. If they had not, LeBron probably would be at 6 championships by now. I'm just being honest with y'all. And people don't want to hear that. People don't want to talk about that. But had they not gone out there and did a real, you ridicule LeBron for doing all that. This is a team that broke the Bulls, right? Didn't they break the Bulls record for most wins in a season or tie it or something like that?
The Warriors.
The Warriors
They broke the record.
Right. And then you go out and you add a guy like Kevin Durant. Like the fact that the way I see it is, like, listen, you want to ridicule LeBron for joining the Miami Heat or LeBron getting Anthony Davis or LeBron having Kyrie Irving. Let's talk about that. Steph Curry, Draymond, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, all Andre Iguodala, who was playing phenomenal, right?
You can criticize the way that LeBron went to Miami, not the actual move itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's way different.
Like LeBron going. Remember, LeBron gave Cleveland 9 years of his career,
Right,
of winning nothing and
the best player they gave
teams,
him was Mo Williams.
and
I
Williams,
love
taking-
Mo Williams,
so,
guys.
so
Cavs
before
legend.
so before we ridicule that, let's also talk about that without Kevin Durant, right? Without Steph Curry, Kevin Durant doesn't probably have those rings, right? Well, at least
No.
that many of that amount of rings. And without Kevin Durant, Steph Curry probably doesn't have that many rings.
Yeah, I
because
don't think
they were
they
really
would've won
struggling.
again.
They were really
They wouldn't have.
struggling to finally break through with the Cavs at that point. So I don't know. I think things could have been different, water under the bridge at this point, but I think LeBron probably could have went to, LA with I think LA could have when LeBron went to LA, could have been going to LA with 6 championships versus, his 3? Yeah,
Yeah,
because he
he's
won
got
4
3.
or 1. Yeah, so it doesn't matter here or there, because if the Lakers wind up actually staying put right now as it currently stands in the playoffs, I've said it before. I'm telling you right now, I don't see a team in the West right now that can beat them in a 7-game series. Can't see it. Don't see it. Don't think the Suns can do it, especially with their depth on their bench. Don't think the Grizzlies could do it. Too immature. Who can do it? The Warriors. The Warriors can't win on the road.
What if they don't have to though? What if it's a 7-game series with them playing 4 at home?
Yeah, that's true.
Are the Warriors even in the playoffs right now? Or they're in the play-in?
Yeah.
They're close. They're
in the
believe,
play-in.
8.
I thought we're. Oh
No, the
last
Warriors. The Warriors
7.
aren't even in right now. The Nuggets are
Well,
choke
yeah,
artists.
true.
What's
The Nuggets-
I
the
forgot about
separation though? Because we
I
know
think-
4
I
through
think-
It's
11.
really. I was gonna say it's really
4 through
close.
11 was separated by like 2.5 games just 4
'Cause the
days
Warriors
ago.
The
were
Warriors
like
are 1
6.
ahead of the Lakers. The Warriors are 6 seed right
The
now.
Warriors are the
Oh,
6
I
seed.
was
I thought.
right.
I thought.
said
I
they
thought the
were
Lakers were the
6th
6
the
seed.
last time I checked.
I thought the Lakers were the 6 seed.
7.
Mm-mm.
The
It's
7
so
seed. Okay.
close.
Okay.
I
They're
feel like
only
it keeps
1
going
game
back and
behind.
forth.
Or they're
Okay.
half a game behind.
Okay. I still don't think that. Yeah, I still think that this
The Reds
Lakers
are
team, the way
winning.
that they're playing right now, the way Anthony Davis is playing right now, is like an absolute menace. LeBron doesn't have to be the star of the show. You have your role players playing, and you're able to shoot. You're able to shoot from behind the arc. It's a lot of things a reason why I feel like this Lakers team is finally gelling together, and a lot of it is Darvin Ham's coaching as well, right? And I've said it before. I don't think that's being talked about enough. But we didn't come here to talk about the Lakers on the show. I'm just letting y'all know right now the Lakers are looking promising. Warriors will have the playoff run. Malik is saying the Lakers will. Ted, that's your opinion. Stick to MMA, my brother. But I want to keep the
Who I'd rather
conversation.
have.
I want to keep the conversation rolling. MMA, not MMA. The NBA just officially announced that they have now, in the CBA agreement, just announced
Woo!
that load management, right?
Out of
How
here.
many
Yeah.
games is it now that they have to play?
65.
You have to play 65 games to be
Boom.
eligible for regular season awards, such as MVP, Defense Player of the Year, all that, Comeback Player of the Year award, and all that kind of stuff. And the way I see it, man, I think that this is a great thing. I think
Great
this is a
thing.
great thing
Yeah.
for the NBA.
Wonderful.
Let me tell you who I'm thinking about right now. I'm thinking about the young kids that beg their parents to go to an NBA game, that get tickets to go to a game to
Mhm.
see their favorite player, and then you get to the stadium.
That happened with a kid from Alaska, flew
Mhm.
all the way to Miami to see Jimmy Butler
Butler.
play, and Jimmy Butler ended up
Dude.
sitting out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That was
I've
his
had
first
this
NBA
happen.
Mhm.
game. Jimmy was his favorite player, and that's
Oh,
the stuff you're
man.
talking about, man.
I think about the young kids, man, that beg their parents, hey, can I go to this game? Or they save up their allowance. I remember being that kid, man. I used to go to Nets games all the time. We had my family.
I'm so
in there
sorry.
yeah, back when they were New Jersey Nets. And I remember load management wasn't this thing, right? But for the young kids that do beg their parents, hey, can I go to this game? Can I do that? And on a school night, especially, and the parent says, yeah, you can. And your hope is to see your favorite player. Your hope is to see your favorite player, right? And you get there, and then next thing you know, your favorite player is sitting out. This is awesome for them. Like, let's forget about the awards for a second, all that. Just from a pure enjoyment standpoint of being able to see said star player on your team play. This has got to be awesome, man. This has got to be awesome. And I think that I'm looking at Ted's comment. He said, let's be honest. Worst part about that story was Jimmy Butler being someone's favorite player.
Hey, Kevin loves my favorite player, so I can't judge.
There's JaVale McGee stands out there. All right. There's somebody for everybody.
Yeah.
So when I say I think that load management will definitely dwindle now. I mean, you guys see the people that we have as the faces of load management, LeBron. And it pains me to say that LeBron James was a couple years was like, oh, I would never load management, and ridiculing Kyrie Irving and all that. I mean, not really Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard. And then you got Kawhi Leonard, and then you got Damian Lillard, who's missed a ridiculous amount of games. You know, it just, man, this is awesome though. This is really, really awesome to see the NBA moving in this fashion, because it was a growing complaint. Now, my only other thought process, and I want to hear your thought process, is, Ev, I think that they need to, and Jules, I think that they need to put some type of restriction on it to where, what do we actually count as them playing a game? I think as long as they play the first half, that should be counted as a game.
Yeah, that should be counted.
Because I don't want the scenario to happen where a player gets dressed, comes in for 3 minutes and 44 seconds.
They'll try to do that too.
I don't want a situation where a player comes in for 3 minutes and 44 seconds, Dwight Powell, and then they get benched or they sit out the rest of the game. And
so with like Sixth Man of the Year being obviously a award that would probably fall into this category, do you think like 15 minutes in a game would be?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I also think, here's my thought process, a little bit psychological, right? No competitor, no star player is going to get warmed up, go through their weekly routine, their daily routine to get ready for a game, get excited, get psyched, get in that mentality, get into the game, has a monster game, scores like, let's say 10 points, 15 points in the first quarter, and be like, all right, I'm doing load management the rest of the way. You're not going to do that. You're going to be like, shit, I got to play this game. Yeah. And then so when you come back at halftime, these players, I'm being real with you, these players just got to get a little bit of a little toughness about them a little bit, if you ask me, and be like, all right, well, they did it in the 90s, right? They did it in the 80s or whatever the case may be. And I get it. Like, sports medicine is way different nowadays. The way these players are able to take care of their body is way different nowadays. I think there's ways to be smarter about the situation, whether even from a coaching standpoint, maybe you want to play guys just a little bit less, right? Maybe you play a guy a first quarter and then the third quarter and then play him in the fourth quarter a little bit. Just be a little bit more mindful about it versus, oh, I'm just going to sit this game out in street clothes because I feel like it. It's different ways we can manage it, I think. And I think that the NBA is onto something right now with trying to eliminate how often some of these players get. I forgot. I think they said Dame Lillard missed how many games did he miss this season? Or he's on track to miss like 50 some odd games. It's crazy. Yeah, load management is crazy.
It's not good for the sport.
Yeah, it's not good for the sport at all. Dang, can you look that up exactly? See how many games Dame? I think Dame has missed like 50 when it's because he got shut down for the rest of the season already.
Oh,
so he's missing. He's also missing. He's missed like the last 4 games or 3 games, something like that, and he's missing the rest of the season as well.
And one thing I just wanted to add with this whole load management thing, it's actually done the exact opposite. You've seen a lot of more players in recent years get injured in the playoffs because of this, and that's same thing you've seen in the NFL. It's like if you don't play a certain amount of minutes, it's like it's actually hurting your ability to play because your body's not ready for that full.
Right.
When you get to the playoffs, you're playing 7 games in the span of 2 weeks, and then you got another 7-game series. Then you have another 7-game series. Versus if your body's already conditioned to play in those back-to-back nights, it's actually going to help. So, by the numbers, it's actually done the opposite. So
I was going to say that's very similar to why we see so many injuries as soon as you get back to camp, where in football, where coaches ramp things up too quickly, your soft tissue is not used to that explosion, that kind of work and duress and stress you're putting it under. And it does result in more injuries. I think this is really important because you're going to see players a lot more motivated to participate in these games because people are saying, oh, well, maybe they won't care about these accolades because everybody always just says rings are what matters, right? So why would they care if they make the all NBA third team or whatever, right? It's because you can make an extra $13 million a season in the difference between whether or not you make an all NBA team on these extensions. And for the Supermax extension that gets you the 35% of the salary cap dedicated to your contract, then you're talking about the difference between another $13 to $15 million a year on your contract based on whether or not you make an all NBA team. That's what Jaylen Brown's working with right now.
Right.
Why he wouldn't want to sign a contract for 140% of his value when he can get 250% if he makes his NBA all NBA team. And you got to make it 2 out of 3 seasons, or you got to win an MVP award, or you got to win a Defensive Player of the Year. These awards matter now because they are directly tied to your earning potential for these superstars.
Right.
So it definitely gives them more incentive to not sit out these games and maintain themselves necessarily in the hopes of making a playoff run, because it will directly affect their earning potential in a big way.
Absolutely. We've got
Dame is on track to miss 23 games this year.
Oh yeah.
23 games. Okay. So how many games has he missed already?
Not a ton. He's played 58 games.
That's what it is. He played 58. I knew it was 50.
Oh, because when you
he played
I thought
50.
you
That's
said
still a
when you
lot
missed-
though. On
Yeah.
23 games? That's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, you don't listen to me, guys. Obviously, I don't have the numbers right here. But we got a question for Jules.
Oh no.
It says,
Oh, yeah.
Jules, basketball question for you.
Baseball.
Question
Baseball,
for
okay.
you. Sorry. Thoughts on the lack of marketing on baseball? I'm sorry. Thoughts on the lack of marketing on baseball and the top players? The NBA is so popular because they market their player. It seems like an easy solution for the MLB. Thoughts?
Easy solution. I have a lot of thoughts on the lack of marketing. I think they are slowly starting to do what people have been wanting them to do. They're trying to reach into the younger audience. I've noticed that on their TikTok specifically. I don't know who runs the MLB TikTok, but you're doing a great job. I love you. And I think that's their biggest issue, is tapping into the younger audience, but also keeping them engaged. To bring back to our conversation about Caitlin Clark and just like the no fun league and all of that stuff. I feel like there's so many things that, like what was it, 3 years ago when Nick Castellanos, the whole Cardinals thing, when he was up at the plate, like, oh yeah, or whatever, because he slid and scored, and he got suspended like a few games or so. And it's just like, he didn't do anything bad. They're like, oh, like he initiated all this fight to break out. And I'm like, this is going to stop people from watching. That goes for the commissioner as well. But just in general, there's so many blackouts. That's an issue. That's another thing that's not going to help your marketing. Obviously, I'm not an expert at all of this, but those are just a few things that they could do better. They're not allowing everyone to access and be able to watch, especially with the whole Bally Sports situation, which is more of an Ohio thing. But it's just so many blackouts. You don't see that in other sports. Like, do you see that in NFL at all? Not really. MLB, that's the only thing. And I don't know. I think also the World Baseball Classic, that definitely helped. Like, people really tuned into that. People got excited for that. I like that. Like Ohtani against Trout, like that was amazing.
Yeah.
So many people tuned in for that. And obviously you're not going to have that because they're on the same team. But just those kind of things, putting more teams on national TV, because you're always going to have the Dodgers. I get it. It's the teams everyone knows. But every time I tune in, it's the Yankees, the Dodgers, who else? The Red Sox, the Cubs. They're always the ones that are on TV. And obviously I'm going to be a little biased. Yeah, get the Reds on national TV more. They always lose when they're on national TV. But they won't if you give them more chances. It's just, how are you supposed to open it up so it's not such a local, small market, and only allow the bigger teams to be accessible and known? Like everyone knows the Dodgers. Everyone, I don't know. You have Mike Trout, you have Shohei Ohtani, people like that. Like, how can you not market them?
Yeah, I don't know.
They're so marketable and they just don't do anything.
And
it also goes with ESPN and their lack of coverage.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that could just be done better. from everyone.
Somebody said, wouldn't baseball grab a bigger audience if they played less games? I feel like most don't pay attention until the end of the
That's
summer
another
because
argument.
there are just so many games. It's watered down currently.
Oversaturation is a good argument, I think, because if you're talking about, oh man, we lost that game to the Pirates, but we play them 4 more times this week. Like there's definitely like, oh man, like, okay, well, there's always tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And then I definitely think there's a little bit less, the stakes aren't quite there until later in the season when the race is a little bit more narrowed down. But I think Jules is right. I mean, MLB was late to the social media game and the social media point. And these younger audiences that you are grabbing, as soon as something really cool happens where you have like a walk-off grand slam or a walk-off home run and someone bat flips and you've got people left and right pearl clutching to, oh, my tradition. Oh, my respect for the game. Oh my goodness. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. This gatekeeping that goes on where it's, if you don't think that's terrible for the game, then you don't get baseball and baseball's not for you. And we'll go down swinging. And if it means, like you said, that we're dying in our viewership. And God, my cousin used to play baseball and was like getting recruited for the national USA team. And he just gave up on baseball because it wasn't exciting enough, because he had other prospects in track and field that he enjoyed more, and basketball and football that he enjoyed more. And it's like, when you're losing out on that interest of that youth, that you can't hold and maintain this interest from people who are even absurdly good at the sport, like, you've got a problem that you desperately need to address. You need to figure out how to get this younger viewership to spark this interest, this love for the game for younger people. And I don't think pearl clutching tradition and saying, oh man, yeah, they're ruining the game by having this attitude or this swagger. We talked about it earlier. That's what people want to see. That's a draw for people to tune into a sport that normally they wouldn't. It gives them a reason to watch, an incentive, a storyline. Whereas just the 20th game of the season and the 4th game against the Pirates that week is just not a big enough draw for a lot of people to tune in for a 4-hour game on a Thursday.
Right.
Like, it's just, that's, people got other stuff going on.
Yeah, they need to be willing to change.
Right.
That's the biggest thing, and they're the worst sport at that, is just being stuck in their ways. Like the bat flip thing. People still get so angry about that. And I know not everyone's going to agree, but it's exciting. Again, it brings up a debate. More people, more eyes are watching. And I agree, and I know I'm going to get flamed for this, just like anything else. And I've been saying it to, I've talked to my dad about it. They need to have less games. I'm not saying 30 less games. I'm saying, like, obviously games in the beginning of the season aren't going to be much. I mean,
the stakes
they just
have got to
aren't.
be higher.
But the 162, like, come on. And I think obviously they have changed some rules. The pitch clock, they banned the shift, and they made the bases bigger, which I forgot about that. Like, they're trying, and of course there's people mad. It's a thing. You have to be willing to change. I was against everything. I didn't want anyone touching the game of baseball. It's like, I love how it is, but the average person who doesn't enjoy baseball, I mean, I enjoy it because I played softball and they're very similar but very different, obviously, but I know more than just the basics. I can enjoy the game and I can understand it more than the average person because I played a sport that's similar and I grew up around it. So it's just, you really have to be willing to change.
Right.
Because,
I don't care if you do cartwheels across the bases. If you hit a walk-off home run to win the game, you can do whatever the hell you want. You do the worm across home plate for all I care. Okay.
Right.
Like, with how fun touchdown celebrations are for team celebrations and everything else, why don't you want to see that more in baseball?
Flips.
And it's literally just tradition. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? This is already boring and it sucks. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Like, shut up, Bill. Get off your couch. We're changing things here. Oh, I hate people that want to change. It makes me mad.
Before we get into our final topic, make sure you guys give this video a like if you haven't already, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn on post notifications if you have not already done so. We appreciate your support that you guys give us each and every single week. But for the final topic, since we were talking about baseball, let's keep it on baseball. This past, Thursday?
Yes.
Right? I experienced my first ever opening day in Cincinnati, went to the Reds game, got to see the Reds take on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Didn't go the way we wanted it to.
Nope. not at all.
But it was still a fun time in the First Star Logistics suite, hanging out with Jules, hanging out with Daniel in the First Star crew, Kev, Garrett, the whole 9 yards. It was a great time. My man Isaac. It was fun. I know Jules is on this crusade of trying to make me into a baseball stan, a baseball fan. And Jules, how do you think that's going for you so far?
Look, I've technically we're in the middle of the not middle. So no, I would count. No, great, cool. Don't look, guys. I need to stop looking at the score. We're up 4-3, and now I'm being told that they're down 6-4. I'm not going to talk about who's pitching. I don't know who's pitching, but I have an idea. I don't need to know that. Anyways, back to being happy. So I think I can do a great job.
Mhm.
I have influenced people to come to the ballpark who don't really care much, just based on my photos and my fun vibes. I got you. You only got very limited baseball, Jules. Obviously, that day was very chaotic. But what I can tell you is there's no one does opening day like the Reds. No one. Not a single team, not a single sport. There's nothing like opening day. Can you agree to that?
I agree. The atmosphere was
They're
electric.
just
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
And like during the national anthem, I was like holding back tears. I was so happy. I was waiting for so long. I felt like I was waiting 5 years for opening day. I was so
I did sing
happy.
the song. Take me out
Oh,
to
you
the
did?
ball
Oh,
game.
Where was I at that point?
Me
Was
out.
I
I did
even
sing
doing
that.
this
I
Did
did
you get
sing
yourself
that.
some Cracker Jacks?
I'm pretty sure I was eating
I did not
food.
have any Cracker Jacks. I did not, but I
Nah,
did. I think don't they say we just root for the
Red legs.
red legs, right? So I was about to say they said something completely different. So like I said, it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun, Jules. Jules, how was it hanging out in the First Star Logistics suite?
It was
Your first
amazing.
time there.
I don't know who controls the food, but I gotta tell you some things. All right. All right, you gotta sit up straight. We're doing some food ratings with Jules, of course. So the popcorn, that's the one we all care about, right? I always do that rating. Great popcorn. I've had Bengal sweet popcorn. I've had FCC sweet popcorn. And now I've had red sweet popcorn. All three now. And Cyclones, but it wasn't a sweet. It's still the same thing. I think they sell the same popcorn everywhere.
I'm sure.
I'm gonna be honest. I think it's number one. I'm not just saying that because of where I am.
High
There's not a
praise.
gun to my head. It was great popcorn. But not only was the popcorn amazing,
Mhm.
the vibes were too. But the mac and cheese was amazing. Like,
You have been talking about the mac and cheese since last Thursday.
I have been thinking about the mac and cheese since I ate it.
Mhm.
And if I had the capability to like not get full, I would only eat that and would have never stopped. When I tell you that I'm very passionate.
So
That mac and cheese is so good. The chicken tendies, elite, great food.
So
There's
it
other
sounds
stuff,
like we've
but-
got to get Jules back in the First Star Logistics suite.
Yes.
The vibes were great. The people
The
were
vibes were
awesome.
great.
Dave Lapham was there in there joining with us and everything like that. It was just a great time
Got cute
overall.
pictures too.
You took a lot of pictures.
I
you
did.
took
When
some
don't I take
pictures,
pictures?
but no, it was fun, and that's we talk a lot about First Star Logistics on this show. Obviously, this show is powered by First Star Logistics. You see us repping the gear, but they really treat us like family. Even going out in the suite. I put out a tweet and I talked about the different concerts that I was not a big concert goer before.
Ooh, I'm a big
And now I'm a big concert goer. And that's all credit to First Star Logistics. They've really got me out of my comfort zone, if you will. And I'm still not a big fan of riding on an RV in a rainstorm with the wind swaying the RV back and forth. But seriously, First Star Logistics, nobody does it better than First Star Logistics. Got to just give them credit. And if you are really looking, for a career, if you want to start your career as a broker and you want to make as much money as possible with unlimited potential and really join some place with a family like atmosphere, there's no better place than First Star Logistics. And I can't say that enough. And it's the experiences that you can't teach, right? I'm not here to give you guys an ad or a spiel and all like that. But for some of you, if you are looking to, start your career or get into a career as a broker and learn the industry inside and out, make sure you apply to First Star Logistics. The link is always down in my description. Great people. Chances are, if you were to work here, you see me, you see Jules, you see Evan, you'll be able to stop us and talk with us. We spend a lot of time here as well. So definitely do that. Just thank you again, First Star, for everything from the show, for the experiences, and for making this all possible as well. But with that being said, that's all the time that we have here for today's show. Tomorrow we'll be back with the right bet, as we'll be bringing you through all the NBA bets, and hopefully you guys all join us, man. Put some money emojis down in the comment section if you guys are going to plan to be here for the right bet tomorrow. We plan to make you some money. We might go live a little bit earlier tomorrow, just so we can help you make some money. That way you guys are able to just, when you get off work and things of that nature, you guys can kind of tail it and things of that nature. So we'll be back Wednesday for State of the Jungle, live at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And this Thursday will be our UFC preview show. And we're really, really pumped up for that as well. That will be the special edition of The Right Bet, presented by First Star Logistics and sponsored by Betfred Sportsbook. But until next time, I hope that you guys have an amazing day. And something I never thought that I'd say, but here we go. Go Reds.
Oh yes, go Reds. They're
Go
losing right
Reds.
now.